Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rick. This time I am not going to be doing an overnight hike, so this won't count toward my 65 hikes, but I am in one of my old stomping grounds, the Charles H. Bronson State Forest, and what I'm actually here to do is test some water filters. There's a ton of water everywhere in Florida, but a lot of the water is very turbid or usually has a bit of a funky taste because of the tannins. So what I've done is I've brought 3 filters. I brought a Sawyer, an MSR, and a GRAYL filter. Each one has different capabilities and different benefits, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to collect some water, and then I'm going to run that water through all 3 filters, see how well they do at filtering it out, clearing it up, and then I'm going to do a taste test and see how they each taste. So that's basically all I'm doing in this video. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it provides you some information if you ever decide to hike in Florida or you're on the Florida Trail, which I've just gotten to, the Florida Trail. So the campsite I'm going to check out is campsite 1 here at the Charles H. Bronson. It's called Joshua Creek, and it's right by a creek called Joshua Creek. So that's where I'm going to get the water from, and we'll see how this goes. Let's see. Well, I don't think there's going to be a lack of water flowing through here, because even right here, there's actually flow going on this little area here. Hopefully the boardwalks keep me high and dry, but you can see the eddies around the trees. So I don't know if you can make out how dark brown the water is here. It's like somewhere between tea and coffee, I think, but I'll collect some and we'll see what it looks like. All right, that's not too bad. Kind of looks like tea, but yeah, that'll do for my test for sure. So I'm happy with that. So that's what the water looks like coming straight out, and it's very clean as far as doesn't have a lot of sediment in it. So even though there's a ton of tannins, it doesn't look like there's much, as they say, turbidity. So pretty happy with that. Sweet. All right, let me pack back up and head back to the car. I'm back from the hike, and I've got my jar of fresh Florida creek water. You can see it looks like the color of tea, but it's actually very clear and doesn't have a lot of sediment in it, so that's good. The color comes from tannins that we get a lot of here in Florida. Basically, all the dead leaves and branches that are in the creeks, the water sits there long enough that it basically brews in those and creates sort of a leaf tea out of the water. But what we're going to do is we're going to test 3 different filters on Florida water. We're going to do the standard Sawyer Squeeze, the MSR MicroWorks EX, and the GRAYL UltraPress. Now, each of these uses a slightly different filter technology, and we're going to see which one performs better on Florida water. One of the main reasons that I'm doing this is, being a native of Florida and doing a lot of hiking in Florida, I'm concerned about the water here. It's not spring water generally. A lot of the times you're finding water that's either very turbid or has a ton of tannins in it, like this. Actually, the water was flowing pretty well the day I gathered this, so this is a lighter colored tea, if you can believe it, for Florida. The other thing that's a concern is there's a lot of agricultural land, and because everything is flat, a lot of the creeks have runoff of either the pastures where cows and other cattle are grazing and pooping, and also fields that have fertilizers on them where they're growing crops. So the idea is to filter out as much as we can, not only of the bacteria and protozoa, but some of these filters are capable of filtering out the viruses, and I'm hoping at least a couple of these can filter out some of the tannins and some of the chemicals that might be in the water from the agricultural land. Okay, so this is how we're going to run the test. I'm going to run the creek water through each filter twice. On the second run through, I'm going to collect it in these clear cups so that we can compare how much each of the filters has filtered out the tannins. So we'll have one cup with the original creek water, we'll have the 3 cups with the 3 filters, and then I'll have one more cup with filtered tap water as a sort of baseline of expected clarity. Once we run that and we've verified that, then we'll do a taste test. I'm not going to taste the unfiltered water, but I will taste the water through each of the 3 filters, and then I'll taste the tap water to see if I notice much of a difference. First up, we have the lightweight favorite, the Sawyer Squeeze. This is probably the most popular filter on the trail. It's designed to remove bacteria and protozoa from the water using a hollow fiber type filter. When I weigh this, I'll weigh it with just the filter itself and with the bag empty. So I consider this sort of a part of the filter, although the bag can be considered a storage device for water. So if you just needed to carry water, you can use it for that. So you be the judge if you want to count these 2 as part of the weight. But let's see how this one does. All right, I'm going to start by squeezing some of the water through is the first run to clear out the filter. All right. And you can see the flow is pretty good. I mean, the Sawyer's always really good at flow, so there you go. Next, we have the MSR MicroWorks EX. This is a pump style filter that also removes the protozoa and bacteria, but it's a ceramic filter with a carbon core. The carbon core is designed to remove some of the bad flavors from water, and it should remove some of the chemicals as well. So let's see how this one does. And you should start seeing water coming through. There you go. All right, let's get a few pumps to get this primed up, and then what we'll do is we'll switch this out and do the final pump. And again, the flow is really good, which is expected. The water is pretty clear, but I can see that it doesn't seem to change the color too much. We'll have to see how that compares to the Sawyer. Our last filter is the GRAYL UltraPress. This is a press style filter that is designed to remove the protozoa and bacteria as well as viruses. It also has a carbon core and is designed to remove the bad taste of water as well as some chemicals and even heavy metals. So let's see how this one does. So when you press this down, it's got a seal here, and then you have to loosen the lid so that you get some air out of it. So I'll go ahead and squeeze this down. And it doesn't take too much pressure. I do have to push pretty firmly though. All right, so that's the initial run through. Oh, that looks significantly different though than the other 2. Okay, let's go ahead and run the second run of the GRAYL. So we'll take a little more of this water. Loosen the lid. And press down. It takes a lot of work. All right. We'll see how this second run does. Well, it's much lighter than the other 2, but it's definitely not as clear as the first run. All right, so here's the moment of truth. This is the original creek water. I'm not going to taste test that. This is from the Sawyer Squeeze. This one is from the MSR MicroWorks EX, and this is from the GRAYL. And this is filtered tap water. I would say looking at these, there's maybe a slight difference between the original water and these two. The Grayl is clearly a little bit lighter. Originally on the first press, I did notice that the water was much clearer, so it's interesting that the tannins eventually make it through. Anyways, let's give them a test. No, not that one. All right, so this is the Sawyer Squeeze. I don't smell anything funky. Water actually tastes all right. I don't even taste much in the way of tannins or anything. Maybe a little bit. Okay, pretty good though. I could definitely drink that if I needed to. All right, let's try the MSR MicroWorks EX. Smells all right. It's really hard to tell. Let me cleanse with a little bit of tap water. All right. Yeah, this one tastes pretty good too. I can taste a little bit of the tannins in these two, but just barely. I think if you had a electrolyte or were using this to cook, I don't think it would flavor the drink. So that's a good sign. All right, so last one is the Grayl, the lightest colored one. So let's see how this one is. Again, no smell whatsoever. In fact, there's a little bit of smell in the original, but let's give it a taste test. Yeah, no noticeable smell. Actually, yeah, I can taste the difference, but I can taste the difference between these two and this one. This one really has no flavor. Yeah, that's pretty much close to this water. In fact, these waters are making the chlorine more noticeable in the tap water, and this has been through a filter, but I can still taste a little bit of the chlorine. All right, I'm going to try them each again. After drinking some tap water and then tasting them, I can definitely tell the difference between all three actually. I can taste more tannins in the Sawyer Squeeze, a little less in the MSR MicroWorks EX, and honestly, I can't taste anything in the Grayl. So I would say it tastes the best. Now the question is it worth the extra effort? And that's up to you to decide, but I wanted to give you sort of a baseline of information so that you can make that decision for yourself. So if you're backpacking and hiking in Florida and you want something to filter water, clearly the Grayl produces the better tasting water. I do like the fact that these two are supposed to remove some of the chemicals, and I really do like the idea that the Grayl removes a lot more of the contaminants. Anyways, hopefully I've presented enough information here for you to decide for yourself. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Maybe next time I'll do a little bit of actual hiking. So until next time, see ya.